All right. Next up on Off the Top, we just talked about the James Gunn situation and how yesterday, looking at it, is Disney keeping his script hypocritical? Is it a compromise? I got an interesting email this morning that I thought instead of addressing it next week, I would just bring it up in Off the Top here. So I got this email this morning from one of our viewers named David Nguyen, who writes, John, something I've been confused about is why does Disney have to pay James Gunn $10 million for firing him? I don't think they should have fired him, but isn't what Gunn did grounds to justifiably let him go without more compensation if that's what they want to do? What am I missing here? Okay, so where this is coming from is that the reports came out the other day that right now Disney and James Gunn are in negotiating him separating from Guardians of the Galaxy. And in that report, it was reported that Gunn is going to get anywhere between $7 to $10 million to not direct Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And the report said the number may actually be north of that. So it could be 12 million, 13 million, 15 million. I doubt it's much higher than that. But it could be anywhere between $7 and $15 million he's going to get for not working, which is a great deal, which is something you and I wish we could get fired like that every single day. But I have heard a couple of people ask, and David brings it up here this morning of, well, wait a minute, time out. Why does Disney have to pay him anything? I mean, certainly, hey, look, I don't agree with Disney's decision to let James Gunn go, but I understand the decision. And if that's what they want to do, I get it. Couldn't the old tweets and stuff like that, couldn't that be grounds for letting him go without having to pay him extra money? The answer to that question, I've seen a lot of people asking that lately. The answer to that question is no. No. Look, there's a term in employment law called termination with cause, right? Termination with cause. And with cause is for something really egregious. Like they found out you were stealing from the company or you were violating massive company policies or whatever. In situations like that, a lot of times you can be terminated with cause, which means that even if we have an employment contract, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. We can fire you because you did something really heinous. You did something to violate our standards, our terms, all that kind of stuff, or you did something really egregious, right? Would this situation with James Gunn qualify as termination with cause? No, not in the least. Not in the least, for a couple of very important reasons. Number one, to terminate with cause, James Gunn has to have done something, materially that damaged the company now. James Gunn hasn't done anything or broke any policies while working for Disney. While working for Disney, he has violated no policies. Certainly not egregiously violated any policies, right? So on that level, absolutely not. You can't terminate with cause. Secondly, and this is part of the big reason why they got to pay him out, is the fact that you can't fire somebody for something they did before. But also, you especially can't fire somebody with cause for something they did before that you already knew about. Disney, whether Alan Horn did or not, Disney knew about James Gunn's tweets. They knew. They would have to be the most incompetent pack of morons ever in history if they didn't do any background check on somebody as important as a director directing their film. Everybody does background checks on employees, particularly if they're going to be high-ranking employees. Disney knew. Disney knew. So here's an example. Let's say you hire me. Let's say you're running a company called Company X, and you've hired me to be a vice president. Okay. And my name's John Campea. Now, turns out your company, Company X, has a policy against people with the first name John. Can you then come to me and say, we are firing you with cause because you're violating one of our major policies here. You're egregiously violating one of our major policies. No employees with the first name John. We're going to let you go. Well, technically, I am in violation of the policy, but you still can't terminate me with clause because you knew my name was John when you hired me in the first place. So whichever way you look at this, there is no grounds for Disney parting ways with James Gunn with cause. If they could, then they probably wouldn't have to pay him $10 million. That's the situation. So, the reason we're seeing Disney having to pay out James Gunn is because, number one, he didn't violate any policy while working for them. And number two, any pre-existing policy violation that happened beforehand is inadmissible anyway. But even if it wasn't, it's something Disney knew about beforehand because they were public. It wasn't hidden secrets. It wasn't something tucked away in his bottom drawer that somebody discovered. He didn't try to hide them by deleting old tweets or anything like that. Nope. They were out there in the open public. It was public knowledge. So that's the reason why. And again, I still don't blame Disney for wanting to part ways with James Gunn. Again, not something I would have done, but I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But you absolutely cannot, if you do want to part ways with him, you're going to have to pay the man his money because he didn't violate any company policies, and any perceived violation are things you knew about, or at least your company knew about before you brought him on. So that's why, for all you guys who've been asking the questions, I just still don't get it. Why does Disney have to pay James Gunn $10 million? I got fired from 7-Eleven and they didn't have to pay me $10 million. Well, there you go. That's why. Anyway, let's go on to the last thing here and off the top before we go to our main.